Hello, hello, Train My Traffic people. Happy Tuesday, February 11th. This is your first Q&A call. Super pumped to be here. Hope you guys are having an awesome week so far. So just to let you know how these go down. So they do change from week to week. These are Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern. It's 10 a.m. in Amsterdam. I know it's early for you guys in Australia, morning wise, early afternoon for you guys on the West Coast. I love that we have people all around the world here. But it's the same time every Tuesday. We are here for at least 90 minutes. Well, if we run out of questions, which rarely happens, we might end it shorter, but we go for at least 90 minutes, sometimes a bit longer if there's just a lot that needs to be answered. And we're really going to pull the questions from two places. So the Facebook group, which we're in there answering as much as we can, but if there's anything unanswered currently or each Tuesday, we'll hop in here and answer those. Also, anything that you guys have right now that you want to pop into the questions box if you're live on GoToWebinar. So that's sort of the format, and we just get your questions answered, get stuff critiqued. This is a great time to ask us to look over any assets or marketing campaigns or any ideas that we have so that you can help make it better. Some weeks, these calls will be a bit more focused on the topic from the previous Thursday. So for example, this week, we're focusing on acquisition funnels and making sure that your front end offers are built and really refined. So on Thursday and Friday of this week, we will have trainings about that topic. And then I'll ask you guys to really decide on one or thoroughly explain what yours is currently to us so that next Tuesday, the Q&A and the feedback call can be more around us looking into your businesses, giving you any feedback on that funnel, what we would do if we would go the same route that you're choosing, things like that. And sometimes like today, since class is just getting started, they're a little bit more open-ended. So this is your all's time. Happy to help. A quick update, just FYI. So this week we have a slight change. I told you guys on Thursday that Ezra's session this week would be this Wednesday. It's actually being moved to Friday, which will be a little bit better because on Thursday, I'm covering all the business types that aren't e-commerce. And Ezra's training on Friday, which is at 4 p.m. Eastern, is all about e-commerce because there's a lot that needs to be covered specific to that business model, where I'm going to cover info, services, SaaS businesses, local business, brick and mortar. I'm able to cover more business types in a shorter amount of time. So no matter, definitely attend the session that best fits how you want to apply this information. Attend both if you want to, but either way, make sure that you watch the beginning of Thursday's training from me, because I'm going to go through some traffic systems and kind of what they mean for all business types. So that information will apply to all of you guys, and I want to make sure we're all on the same page. So John, let's go ahead and hop in if there aren't any housekeeping questions that you're seeing come in, and then we can get some questions answered.
Cool. No major questions. I wanted to add one thing, which is that we're using a brand new members area for this round of Train My Traffic Person, which is really nice. I think it looks a lot better and it'll work more smoothly, but we are having a little trouble with the child account feature. So, if you're a member and you want to add your teammate to be able to watch the recordings, we are working right now on getting that fixed, and we will email all of you when it works. But right now it's not currently possible. So we'll make sure to get that squared away as soon as we can and let you guys know.
But new members area, that's exciting.
Yeah, moving forward. So I think we're good to dive in. Do you want me to read the questions to you, or just you read them?
I can see them well. So Michael says, hey guys, I have a question about scaling and pausing campaigns. How long do you usually wait to pause an ad, especially when it comes to situations like this? Okay, so I'll read into your situation, but just some general guidelines. I usually wait at least 3 to 5 days, sometimes 7 days, especially if I'm using CBO for a campaign to run before I start to make any decisions, especially when it comes to optimization. Now, that said, let's look at your specific situation here. So your target CPA is $85, and the audience sizes you've been testing are around 1 to 2 million. Okay, that makes sense. That's a good CPA. Many times we'll launch ABO ad sets with a $100 daily budget to test interests or various lookalikes. We'll find an ad set that works well doing 1 to 2 sales per day for a couple of days at a great CPA. So now it's time to scale. We'll pause the small ABO budget ad set and relaunch it in CBO with 500 or 1,000. We'll then restart seeing 500 CPAs only to pause the ad and start. Okay, so Michael, it sounds like you've got a campaign structure issue here. And I'm going to cover all of this in session 3, so next Thursday. I'm not going to go into the full detail here because it'll take me like an hour. But essentially what's happening is you're using a very outdated testing model that makes sense when it comes to how split testing is supposed to work and like what you want from testing. But the issue with it is that it's so specific that it's generating a low volume of sales, but it's set up in a way that makes it really hard to scale. So for example, CBO is what we should be using to scale, and a campaign that you've tested using ABO with these restrictions just don't translate well to a CBO campaign. So it doesn't look like there's anything necessarily wrong with your ads. Like, you're able to achieve the CPA that you're looking for. You have proof of concepts here. But it just looks like there's a campaign structure issue, and that especially it sounds like you're not possibly using CBO in the correct way, like the number of ad sets. So Michael, also what would be helpful if you could let me know, especially with your CBO campaign, how many ad sets are you using? I recommend using between 3 and 5. What are those audience sizes? Because with CBO, I usually recommend 5 million plus in each, much larger than ABO. And how many ads are you using? And I always recommend with CBO using a mix of ads that have existing social proof and ads that don't. So if you can give me a little bit more context, I can give you more specific feedback here. But it sounds like a campaign structure issue, and we're going to dive deep into that next Thursday. And again, give me more context and I can give you more feedback. Great question.
Okay, and before we move on, Molly, we had a few people reach out who said, what's CBO and ABO? And so Michael is clearly a little bit more of advanced of a student, but you want to quickly cover what those two different things are and when we'll talk more in depth about them?
Yeah, we'll talk more about this on Thursday, but with Facebook ads, it's just the difference in where you're setting your budget when you're setting up a campaign. So CBO is budget at the campaign level, ABO is budget at the ad set level. If you don't know what that is, I would definitely do some Googling. There are tons of great guides and information about it online. It's a pretty big topic and switch that's happening in Facebook ads right now. You guys have a 90-minute training coming just on this topic. It's nothing you should worry about at all, no matter what level you're on. But if you are actively running ads and the switch to CBO is a struggle for you, just let me know and I'm happy to coach you through it, because it's not that CBO works or that it doesn't work. It just has to be done in a very specific way.
Awesome. Yeah. And yeah, so it'll get much clearer as we move through. It's just about structure. And I think that's a really cool thing about this course in general is a lot of people come to Train My Traffic Person and they say, I didn't realize how important it was how I structure my Facebook campaigns. And Molly has some very simple principles about audience sizes and number of ad sets and number of ads that will make it really, really simple. So if you're feeling a little bit confused, ask that question. Don't worry, the answers are coming.
Don't worry,
Cool.
it will all become clear, and also realize everybody is at a different point in their journey. So not everybody's questions during these calls are going to resonate with other people, and that's okay. So.
Yep.
Okay.
Cool.
Awesome. Ricardo says, hi, I'm going to put some doubt in case you have time to answer it. Put some doubt in case you have time to answer it today. I don't know if it's too early to ask this. Watching last week's video, Number one, the purpose of the pre-sale article is to sell, not to capture the lead. Yes, Ricardo, in the case with Boom, where I showed the 5 makeup tips pre-sale article, the goal there is to sell. Ezra is going to cover all of that, like go deep into pre-sale articles. We also have a bonus training on that from Lindsay Martyr, John, that we can add to Friday's area of the members area that's about figuring out topics for pre-sale articles if you're e-commerce. And the purpose of specifically Booms is to sell. And usually it is, because if you're going to generate the lead, you would use a lead magnet or something of value, and it's that you would give in exchange for the ability to follow up via phone or email or messenger or SMS or all of them. And the pre-sale article is really to just quickly build that relationship, especially if you're selling a physical product. So you guys will see pre-sale articles for e-commerce, for SaaS. We'll talk more about that a lot in this week's trainings. But for Boom, yes, the purpose of that article was to sell. Not everybody needs a pre-sale article. Not every e-commerce business needs a pre-sale article. For where Ezra and Boom are right now as a company and their level of saturation of the market and their level of scale when it comes to paid media, that pre-sale article is a wonderful mechanism that allows them to acquire a ton of customers. So don't panic if you don't know what it is or you don't have one. You'll figure out if this is something you need to know, but great question, Ricardo. And then number two, in campaign one, do you use the traffic goal or conversion, view content? So in campaign one, I'm actually using the conversion goal and optimizing for purchases, and I'll talk more about that next week. In campaign two, for retargeting, do we use reach goal or traffic? So in those situations, we're actually using the conversion and purchases objective two. The reason for that is that Ezra's retargeting audience sizes are very large, so I'm able to use that objective. We'll talk a lot more about objectives next week and when to use each one. So you shouldn't just use the purchase conversion objective for these steps because Ezra is, because your audience sizes might be different and there are different factors that affect which objective you should choose other than just this is what I want out of this campaign. But for most of Ezra's retargeting campaigns, the objective is still purchase. Sometimes we do conversions and add to basket. For the messenger campaign where you guys saw the 10% off, that's obviously messages objective, but I'll walk through his whole traffic system and tell you which objectives we're using when we get to that step. In campaign 5, in the first announcement of the carousel, how can the message be customized if it is a DPA? We're going to give you a whole training on DPAs, but you are able to put newsfeed text in the DPA. So you are able to, obviously you're allowing Facebook to populate which products are being shown based off of their activity on your website, but you are able to customize that newsfeed text at the top. You said in campaign 6, you should not exclude visitors from the last 3 days since you are already impacting them in campaign 3 and there is no overlap. In campaign 6, you should not exclude visitors from the last 3 days since you are already impacting them in campaign 3 and there is no overlap. So I don't have that in front of me. Let me open it really quick. I think you're talking about Boom's traffic system, which we're going to go way deeper on this, guys, as things unfold, but happy to answer your question. So 6 was the messenger. Yeah, you said in campaign 6, you should not exclude visitors from the last 3 days since you are already impacting them in campaign 3. So, oh, okay. I think you're saying that there's overlap between campaign 3 and 6. That's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with having, in some situations, multiple campaigns running that are in some way targeting the same audiences. I mean, when you guys see inside of even this last launch that we just did for TMTP, there were many cases where sometimes, especially because I was in a time crunch, I had 3 or 4 campaigns running to the same audience. A common strategy that Ezra uses is that he will use different objectives towards the same audience because objective actually has so much more to do with competition and where we land in the auction than targeting does. But for some reason, we're so caught up on targeting overlap when it comes to Facebook ads, and that doesn't matter all the time, right? I'm not saying that there isn't a time and place where you are competing against yourself in some way if you're making some mistakes when it comes to Facebook ads. But with something like Ezra's traffic system, like that is in no way affecting one another. And it's actually probably allowing us to show more ads to that person because we're using different objectives, right? That third step, the objective is purchase. Step 6 is messages. So even though there might be some overlap in audience, there's part of that audience that is more likely to engage with a messenger ad. Like they spend more time on Facebook Messenger. That's just who they are. Facebook knows that. And so Facebook might show them a messenger ad when they might not have been able to, or for some reason just didn't show them that conversion, that purchase ad, because maybe that person for some reason in their newsfeed today or for this month is being targeted with a lot of conversion purchase focused ads. So we've got to think about our advertising and competition against other advertisers, not just we're competing for the same audience, but also the objectives and the things that we are using and choosing for our campaigns. So a lot more on that next Thursday. And then you said in campaign 8, I did not understand well. Is it also advertising on Facebook and Instagram? So when it says retarget all site visitors, so it's retargeting all of our warm audiences, everyone who's visited our site, everyone who's on our email list, everyone who's engaged on Facebook and Instagram. That's why it says Facebook and Instagram. And all of these campaigns that you guys see are always, unless I tell you otherwise, on Facebook and Instagram. So we should say Facebook and Instagram more. But when I say Facebook, I mean all of the platforms that Facebook owns. So some good questions in there. Happy to answer them. And a lot more will be unveiled over the next few weeks as we dive deeper into the specifics. But always happy to answer any questions you guys have about what we go through.
Nice, very awesome.
All right, Taylor. Hello, Taylor. I might be too late to submit a question for today. Nope, you are right in time. I'll try again next week, but if you're still taking questions, I have a question about CBO and how Facebook decides which ad sets and which creatives get what budget. Okay, hey, John, I'm going to make an executive decision since we're already getting a lot of questions about CBO. Let's put that 90-minute CBO training that we have in the bonus area of the members area as soon as we can. The bonus area, guys, is
Cool.
where we put any bonus stuff. We will talk more about CBO, especially next Thursday and with the scaling and optimization modules. But I have a training that's just about CBO, explains what it is. It explains the difference between ABO, how to use CBO, and all of you guys should watch it, no matter what experience level you are, because it is a hot topic and it seems like it's something you guys already have a lot of questions on. So just FYI there, guys, we'll hopefully get that in there in the next few days and definitely make a note to go through that in the next week. It's just a little bonus training for you. So I have a question about CBO and how Facebook decides which ad sets and which creatives get what budget. I know Facebook puts budget towards whichever ad set or creative it thinks will perform best, but that has meant that one ad set or one creative is cannibalizing everything else, so it doesn't feel like a fair test. So the key here, Taylor, and you'll learn this in the CBO, is that in the CBO training, is that that is how it's supposed to work, and that CBO really isn't built for testing, and Facebook's kind of making a mistake pushing everything to CBO mandatory. There is an easy button where we're going to be able to essentially go back, and I cover this in the training. So it's never going to be, we're never going to truly be pushed towards CBO, but the beauty of CBO is that it gets us a high volume of results for a cheap price. My best campaigns run on Facebook to date are CBO, but they need to be used in the correct way, right? And you need to use the fact that the optimization is happening at the campaign level now and not the ad set level to your benefit. And because you're using CBO, the whole campaign needs to be structured differently because of what you just said in this paragraph. So things like way less ad sets, only 3 to 5 ad sets. Again, I'll talk more about this. Whereas when I'm testing and using budgets at the ad set level, I might have 10 to 15 ad sets because I'm talking much larger audience sizes with CBO, also way less ads because I'm using ads mainly that are already proven. So I think a big part of this is using CBO to its benefit and realizing that it's there for true scale. And therefore, we have to build much simpler campaigns or just build multiple CBO campaigns, right? So say you want more than 5 ad sets, right? You're like, Molly, I'm just not able to fit everything into these 5 ad sets. Okay, instead of adding more ad sets to that campaign, you just need to launch a new CBO campaign because that campaign just can't really handle more than 3 to 5 ad sets. Like you said, some of them just don't get reach. So you said, for example, for a cold traffic campaign, I'll have interest-based targeting in one ad set and a lookalike in another. Lookalike gets 95% of the spend and interest base won't get enough. So if that's the case, if it's happening with 2 ad sets, or I'm sorry, with just 2 ad sets for some reason with your campaign, I would just split those out into their own campaigns so that you can ensure that they get reach and so that you don't have to force the spend with the minimum and maximums at the ad set level. And then you said on the creative level, I'll have 5 to 6 ad variations and only 1 or 2 will get the entirety of the budget. So yeah, I really only test creative and copy with budget at the ad set level or with campaigns that just have 1 ad set. I'll talk a lot about that next week. And then I take the winners from there, use those post IDs and put them into CBO. So with CBO, I'm really only using about 2 to 4 ads, most of which usually have existing social proof so that I'm not worried about testing. I'm really more worried about giving Facebook a few solid ads to work with to achieve the highest volume of results at the lowest price. So do I recommend trusting Facebook algorithm? If you are in scale mode and this is an offer that's proven and you're generating the leads or customers or whatever your success metric is that you're truly looking for, then yes. But if you're still trying to figure out proof of concept, I would lean more towards campaign structure that's built for testing and for getting more reach to all of your assets to see what truly works. If you're more in a mode of scaling and getting a higher volume of results, then I would move to CBO, and you need to build those campaigns differently, and therefore definitely watch the CBO training that's going in the bonus area. I think that'll help you a lot. Should I be pulling out audiences that aren't getting a fair amount of spend and putting them in their own campaign? So definitely, if there are ad sets, honestly, if the campaign's working and you're using CBO, I rarely recommend turning an ad set off because it really screws up the optimization. So if it's still active in a campaign, I would leave it running. But a great way to scale with CBO is to do exactly what you're saying and build new campaigns targeting new audiences that are most like the ones that are converting. And you could even give it a shot to target some audiences that aren't getting a ton of reach in the current campaign too. For creative, should I be testing fewer ads? So I'll get into a lot more of this next Thursday. The testing process is like kind of complex, but I recommend testing, like when I'm in testing mode and I'm setting budgets at the ad set level, I test between about 5 and 10 ads in each ad set, and they're identical within each ad set. So that usually allows me to test about 3 copy variations and 2 or 3 creative variations. And that's really the testing that I do. Honestly, there isn't a scientific way to do a perfect test on Facebook through the way that the algorithm's built and the way ads manager is built. It's just not possible. So we do have to rely at least on what the algorithm likes. But my key with testing is to make sure you're building the structure so that you do get the most reach across all of your ads and all of the audiences that you want to test so that you can get a true understanding of what's working and what's not working, and so that you can look at the data and figure out what to do next, right? And so that also your test campaign is built in a way that there is a scalable opportunity there if things are working. A lot of people set up such specific test campaigns, testing just one interest at a time, and it's built so micro that yes, they might get some insights, but that campaign is built in no way to also be able to scale if it works. And anybody who's run Facebook ads before knows how hard it is to, even if you've got something that works, just duplicate it and getting it to work again, you know? And we'll talk about why that's the case next week. But we'll dive way more into all this, Taylor, but these are great questions, and hopefully this feedback is helpful to a lot of you guys. And if this feels like, if this feels way over your head, do not worry. We're going to get you up to speed. You'll know what all this means. If this feels way under your head, I don't know if that's what people say, John, then this is your time to ask some of your more complex questions. That's why this is a mentorship. We're able to really meet everybody where they are. But awesome questions so far, guys, and this is super fun. So let's keep rocking and rolling, John. I'm going to take a quick drink of water here.
That's the whole reason I'm here, guys. So Molly can take a drink of water, and you don't have to wait for her to finish. So I fulfilled my role. You're welcome.
Johnny Chinchilla. I don't think I'm saying that right, but what a badass name. Hey, buddy.
Sweet name.
He says, "Hi, everyone. I'm representing the Seat Shop." Awesome. We manufacture leather vine replacement seat covers and foam for various truck and SUV models, and specialize in matching your original interior going by your vehicle VIN number. Okay. Looking forward to learn how to utilize YouTube in a better way, as well as sharpening up my funnel process and other strategies. I was curious if we're going in depth or possible touching on different influencer examples for real world use. I only asked since I have been listening to the book Ezra recommended called Influence by Robert Cialdini, and would like to get your expertise, expert takes and or examples. So I'm not sure if you're speaking like more of the influencer route. We'll definitely be talking about YouTube with Tom Breeze later in the class. I also recommend Sunny Lenarduzzi. I know some of you guys have done trainings with her. She has an awesome YouTube channel. I do think that at least starting with some organic YouTube stuff for you, Johnny, is super key, because you have such a specific avatar here that they might be searching for specific stuff on YouTube or Google that might flag them as a possible customer. So she is someone that I would follow her YouTube channel. She's got a few free webinars she runs every month, like tons of great content. I interviewed her on Perpetual Traffic, but let me know exactly what you mean by the influence examples. Do you mean, like, I've read the book and I know what you mean by the book, but do you mean like actively, like, sorry, go ahead, John.
I was going to say, I think what Johnny's talking about here is in influence, there are the 7 different strategies of persuasion. And I believe kind of the applied model of this, right? So the idea of taking all the principles of influence and seeing them in the real world is what you will be learning in session 2, because it's talking about how to take the different products and services you have and how to structure them. Because there's a fundamental difference between these two ideas of a product, whatever it is you're selling, and an offer, which is how you're presenting that product. And so to take the idea behind influence, it's saying, I sell water bottles, right? Well, that's not an offer, right? That is a product. Creating an offer that makes the water bottle an appealing and attractive purchase that people decide to spend their money on is crafting an offer. And so that is what you're going to be learning about from Molly and Ezra this Thursday and Friday. So you definitely want to make sure you join at least Molly's session.
Okay. Yeah, that makes more sense.
If not, Ezra's as well, Johnny, to get that principle.
So this week is all about crafting the offer. And then, you'll especially love the ad copy stuff, especially the avatar stuff. Honestly, most of the stuff taught in digital marketing nowadays, guys, is just reinventing what we have known about marketing for hundreds of years and applying it to the digital channels where people are spending their time. So, that's why books like this are they're just so good and they're timeless. So, yeah, if you're talking about the overall principles, those are definitely going to show up in the class. But I don't know if he's been added to the group, Johnny, but Ollie Bilson would be a great resource for Johnny. I know he's owned a few car companies and did a lot of digital advertising for them. So Ollie might be able to lend a hand and let me know if we need any help with that. And welcome,
Cool.
Johnny.
Awesome.
Cool. Happy to have
All
you.
right.
Okay, next up is Andy. Hi, everyone. I've been doing paid ads and SEO for a little bit over a year now. I was a website project manager for a year over that. I'm decently well versed in that area. I work for a lifestyle brand called Teamy Blends, which you guys are crushing it. Way to go. We sell on Shopify and retailers around the world. I'm really looking forward to going through this course. I have to share. Oh, sorry. You guys can see I'm not the best reader all the time. And getting the knowledge and strategies that Molly and Co have to share, and then using that to help our company get to 15,000 sales a month from Facebook. Love it. Love the goal, Andy. And I chatted with your co-founder a few weeks ago. She's awesome. Definitely check out Teamy Blends. They're doing a great job, guys, especially with influencer stuff. And everything that they're doing on social is amazing, and I can't wait to see us take it to the next level with paid ads. Glad you're here, Andy.
Nice.
Okay, so we have Ciaran. I'm probably not saying that correctly, but hello, happy to have you here. Trying to complete my homework before the call. I'm a longtime SEO who's joined TMTP to balance the other side of the traffic equation. I couldn't agree more. My background is in content marketing and technical SEO. Lately, I'm focused on SEO for e-com sellers, but you may have seen my work when I ran the inbound engine for Ramit and I Will Teach You to Be Rich. Oh, I know exactly who you are. We met in Miami. You're friends with Colleen. This is amazing. I didn't realize you were here. The name didn't connect. So, hey, buddy. My organic traffic and lead gen game is pretty strong, but it's hard to scale. Um, I'm working with my favorite client, which is Little Green Dot, which is a natural skincare company. Looking forward to helping her sell more courses. So, hey, buddy, really excited for you to be here. And I'm glad that you joined. We talked about you doing this a year ago. So, I couldn't agree more. It's a big reason that Russ Henneberry comes on to teach alongside me in this course a few times, because Russ is really the content side of my brain, and that pairs very well with a media buyer. So acquiring these skills is very smart and well-rounded of you. Okay, John said, I noticed in Molly's mini course, she got the error of too much text in the video ad and it wasn't approved. She did something like changing the thumbnail and it got approved. We've had this error before and the ad was rejected. I was hoping someone knew exactly how to circumvent. So yeah, this is a good question. So, anytime that you submit a creative to Facebook, they want the video or image to be less than 20% text. They don't want too much text on the screen. And so this only applies to the thumbnail of the video. So when you're uploading the creative at the ad level, there is a button where you can edit the video and upload a customized creative. So the key here is just to upload something. Sometimes, honestly, guys, if I'm in a rush, I upload like a black square. It's ridiculous, or a picture of someone or myself. I make it relevant, but something that's just going to get through that 20% rule. So yeah, John, that will allow you to get around that. It's just making sure the thumbnail is less than 20%. So.
Perfect.
Okay, so this next one. Hey, everybody, I noticed that the last couple of weeks, our campaigns to lower ticket items, such as $1, $3.50, but up to $30, get much better return on ad spend than our campaign to our $60 flagship product. Yeah, depending on the funnel that you're using, that would make a bit more sense, just because especially the volume of the lower dollar offers is going to be higher, and therefore, depending on your margins on those, your return on ad spend could definitely be higher than if you're going to a $60 offer. Again, it depends on the funnels and kind of what steps you're taking them through. I don't know if you're going just direct to the product page, which we call a butter chicken. You guys are going to learn that on Friday. It's ridiculous. Ezra has a bunch of names for all of these acquisition plays that you can run, and one of them is called the butter chicken. So I would need a little bit more context, and you might be giving it to me in this post, and I just haven't read it. So the low ticket items are related to the high ticket items in that they are all used on sewing machines. So I was thinking of pushing these low ticket campaigns and scaling back on the main campaign for now. Then later I would launch cross-sell campaigns for the $60 item to the low ticket buyers. Some questions there. Is it the time of year that causes people? Okay, so first off, I don't see anything wrong with you focusing more on using those low end dollars for acquisition and then just cross selling these higher dollar products. I also don't think that there's a problem with running some front end traffic to the $60 offer if you are getting customers, if you're getting traction, even if it's only like 5% of the budget. If you are acquiring customers that way and it's profitable for you, there's no reason not to do it, because there might be someone out there that's just resonating with that higher ticket offer than the lower ticket offer. But in terms of you putting like your focus on this in terms of this class and like really diving into the copy and creative and the whole process we're about to learn over the next 16 weeks together, focusing on the lower dollars is definitely going to be more scalable. And probably, depending on the level of spend you are right now, I'm sure introducing even some lead magnet or pre-sell type articles, I'm not sure if you already have something like that, will probably be essential for scale moving forward. So I just wanted to say that. But you said, is it the time of year that causes people to now convert better on low ticket items? So this time of year, Q1 is always going to be the cheapest traffic, especially on platforms like Facebook. It doesn't matter how expensive the traffic gets, it will always be the least expensive this time of year. That's just because of competition. You guys all probably know that. It doesn't take rocket science. Most big advertisers, like top Fortune 500 companies, spend most of their ad spend in Q4. Most of it isn't performance based. They don't need to see any certain CPA. They're just like, yeah, we're spending $10 million on Facebook this month with super broad targeting, and it kind of makes it hard for us little guys, but that's okay. That's why the name of the game for me with most of the brands I run is using all the other quarters to do a bunch of cold acquisition to scale as much as I can in terms of acquiring leads and customers. And then for Q4, kind of back down to retargeting, kind of focus more on email marketing. That won't be the case for everybody. For example, Boom, Ezra's cosmetic company, spends their most amount of money in Q4. So it really depends, but this is something we'll talk about, and I'm kind of going down a rabbit hole right now I should probably pull myself out of. But you said last year the same kind of thing happened, only then it only took us a couple of months of trying to get the ads for the $60 item running again without success, decided to scale it back. I mean, a lot of this is just you're meeting someone in a Facebook ad, hey, nice to meet you. Do you want to get married and buy my $60 item? Like the lower dollar items are going to convert better to cold traffic because it's where you are in this traffic system. So I don't know if I would be comparing them apples to oranges as much either. Like I said, I think that the higher dollar offer could have a place, very small percentage of budget to cold traffic, but I would mainly be using it to warm and cold traffic. I don't think this is a time of year thing. I think that the time of year is just traffic is cheap right now, which is super exciting. And it's a good reason you guys are taking this class at this time of year. Anybody tried this tripwire kind of strategy and had good results with the cross-sell campaign? Yeah, tons of people. I mean, it's honestly how most online e-commerce companies are founded from a direct response standpoint nowadays. I mean, you look at Ezra will go deep into the pre-sale article on Friday, but his front end offer is a pre-sale article that leads to some certain, I'm not going to do this the justice that he does, but different positionings, I guess you would call them, different offers of what he's selling in terms of his cosmetics. And for him and his brand, most of those are considered tripwires, right? And he's kind of just looking to break even there. And then of course, he makes his money with cross sells, upsells, people coming back for repeat purchase. We're getting into a lot of what we're going to be talking about on Friday. So I think that will clarify this more. And you're definitely on the right track with your thinking here. Great question. And thank you for submitting it.
Awesome. Okay.
All right. It looks like Mark is saying hello. He and Layla are founders of Volto Urbano. So it's a skincare brand. Awesome. So using Boom as an example will help you guys. And you've launched and you launched your Facebook ads last week through an agency and you're struggling to convert when people visit our site. You welcome any help because you're not trained marketers. So Mark, why don't you post some screenshots of your ads here? on this thread when you have a second and tag me, and also take some screenshots or record a quick little video inside of your ad sets and just your campaigns in general. Just walk me through the structure, show me who you're targeting, show me the ads, and I'll give you some feedback there, buddy. But welcome to the group, and I'm sure we can improve the performance. Okay, so Paul says, Facebook objective question. I know lots of you guys will have questions about objectives, and good news is next week, a big part of that session is about objectives. I give you a cool worksheet to help work through which objectives you should use at which time. So just FYI there. But you said we have an event or an apparel event where we are sending people to a landing page. We want to create some Facebook ads to get more people to sign up for the event. What objective would you suggest? So, yeah, I don't know if this event is paid or if it's free or how many conversions you're expecting to get in a week, but it sounds like, especially since you're just getting started, driving traffic directly to this page and optimizing for conversions, and whether it's a purchase or a lead, just whatever, or whether you create a custom conversion on that thank you page, you want to optimize for whichever page or event is coming after they take this action. So Ezra, we'll talk more about this on Friday in terms of the strategy. This is the butter chicken thing I was talking about. That sounds ridiculous, but for this, yes, I would use the conversion objective to start. And next Thursday, we will go more in depth with this. Sorry for the doggy ear flaps, guys. Larry always decides to get most active when I'm on these calls. I think he feels my energy. He knows I'm getting pumped, and he's like, all right, Mom, where are we going? Okay. All right. So Jamie said, hey, all new to the group. Welcome, Jamie. Happy to have you. Not new to Facebook advertising, but definitely need room for improvement. Glad you enjoyed the podcast, Jamie. Looking forward to this evening's webinar, so I'm going to submit a few questions. Awesome. At what point would you ever introduce other objectives such as link clicks, engagement, or video views into your primary focus? If your primary focus was to drive sales from the people who Facebook was targeting through these objectives. So Jamie, we will talk a lot about this over the coming weeks, because the objective selection is so key to success, as I was just chatting about. It also can be a strategy for scaling, as I was discussing earlier. Targeting multiple objectives or using multiple objectives, even to similar audiences, can help with scale, because it allows you to reach certain parts of that audience that you wouldn't have by using other objectives. But we do want to make sure there is kind of a fine line there where you can over compete with yourself. So I do like to go on a case-by-case basis on a lot of these objective decisions, because there are so many variables that go into account. But with objective, the big things that I look at, and I'll discuss this a lot next Thursday, when selecting the objective, is obviously, what am I wanting out of this campaign, right? But there are lots of nuances that Facebook doesn't tell you. So the budget of the campaign affects my objective. Whether I'm testing or scaling affects my objective. The audience size, especially if I'm going to cold traffic, or whether I'm retargeting, affects my objective. Definitely where I am in the customer journey affects my objective. So I know that doesn't directly answer your question, but we'll get more into this, and let me know if you have any specific use cases you want me to give you direction on there. You saw quite a bit of recent noise about bundling everything into one campaign and your retargeting ads and audiences. Is this something that you and your team are putting into practice? So this is something that we call squishing. And the fact is that most people have smaller retargeting sizes than, for example, Boom does. And they are really hurting the effectiveness of their campaigns, because they are running too many ad sets or too many campaigns to really small audience sizes to try to do this very segmented advanced marketing. But the issue is that's not the way Facebook really works nowadays. And it's hard for Facebook, especially depending on which objective you've chosen, like I just discussed, to even give you reach if your audience sizes aren't of a big enough size, again, depending on the objective. So especially for people just starting out, and if you have a few hundred or even just a few thousand people in all of your warm audiences, like your email list or people that engage with you on Instagram, like if you squish them all together and it's still just a few hundred or a few thousand, that is when I recommend squishing them together. If you are like Ezra and Boom and you have millions and millions of people in the warm audience, then of course we're going to do some more segmented retargeting. And I go really heavy into this into the retargeting module and kind of show you how this progresses over time. So you said, sorry, Molly, nothing to be sorry about. How effective do you find sequencing ads, and how is the best way to bring it into play if it's something you've had success with? So, a great retargeting strategy is all about sequencing, because retargeting is a very reactive style of marketing, right? Someone has shown interest in you or your brand to a certain degree, but they haven't taken the next step in the traffic system or traffic journey that you're looking for them to take. And you need to use retargeting to segue them to that next spot. So sequencing, of course it works well. It's human psychology. It's how we work as humans. It's just making sure that you're setting it up properly in Facebook and that you're being creative enough to think, okay, it's been X amount of time since this person took this action. What is something like the 10% off coupon that you saw Boom deliver through Messenger last Thursday? Or maybe even another blog post or video that I could shoot that helps overcome some barrier to purchase, whatever barriers that I know these people have. Or maybe for this certain amount of time, I'm going to show testimonials. But sequencing is definitely powerful in helping overcome those barriers to purchase depending on the actions people have taken. So Jamie, a lot more to come on that, and really happy to have you in the group, and feel free to again give me some more specificity on these campaigns, and I'm happy to point you in the right direction. So John, we can move
Real
on
quick,
to the
Molly, I
next one.
wanted to add something on. I want to add something on bullet point 2, because I have seen several people sharing that their Facebook rep recommended bundling everything together into one campaign, so retargeting and cold traffic, and that is not something that you would recommend, I believe.
No.
Which, Facebook reps, they have some good insights very often, but they're not infallible, and I really don't recommend that. So bundling retargeting together, that works very well, but bundling all of your campaigns or all of your different sort of offers together in one will
No.
very much hurt performance.
Yeah, we'll talk all about that. I'm just talking about bundling your warm audiences, your retargeting audiences all into one ad set. That is a practice that we go by. So Natalie, hello dear. She
Cool.
said, I'm trying to get new followers on Instagram. I'm seeing a slow influx on Facebook, but I'm finding it really difficult on Instagram using Facebook ads. We can invite people on Facebook to follow, but not on Instagram. My question is, to gain followers, do you primarily need a promotion, a discount, a competition? I'm constantly writing informational content, writing comments. Okay, I don't seem to get anywhere. So Natalie, the best thing to do is to pick another front end offer that's also going to generate something for your business, like maybe a lead or a customer. Just pick something from the front end offers that we talk about on Thursday and or Friday, depending on your business type. And then the more that you run Facebook and Instagram ads to doing that, not only are you going to get build business assets that are going to mean a little bit more than follower count, you're also going to get a ton of followers from people that just see you pop up that might not be interested in your particular offer, or even if they are, that click over to your page and follow you on Instagram. Like for example, the launch that we just did for this Train My Traffic person, you guys will see all the behind the scenes in that. I think I generated 2,000 or 3,000 Instagram followers just in the 3 or 4 weeks that we were running ads. None of the ads were about following me on Instagram, but it was just a benefit of doing that. And I also generated leads, customers, made money. Like it was good all around. So that's how I would look at that, Natalie. And don't worry about being relevant. I mean, anything in the realm of digital business or digital marketing and business mindset is totally relevant here. So, alrighty, Joe told us about the call. Is there anything else here in the group, John? Or do we want to switch over to questions coming in on the call?
So Let's take this question from Anna since she
Okay,
just pinged me in the chat about
great.
making sure we didn't miss it. And then I do have quite a few for you. So
Cool, no problem. So, hey, Anna, glad to see you here. She said, I have a tech issue question. I have a new client that is on WordPress, WooCommerce, and there is an error in the catalog. We installed the Pixel using the standard Facebook for WooCommerce plugin. Also tried Caffeine Pixel. Any ideas? I've been round and round, deep in Google. So I don't know if I'm going to be the best person for you here. John, I don't know if this is something that you
I
can
don't
look
know for
at.
WooCommerce specifically, but I
Yeah,
do think that Flexify is a tool I've heard very good things about. So I would check into that option. I know that's what Boom uses. I know quite a few other people in Ezra's mastermind that use that tool, and they've all had a lot of success.
yeah.
But it is catalog can be tricky, and I know that is really powerful for retargeting. So
Yeah,
looking for a
John,
good third-party option is what I recommend.
remind me to add Andrew Tweedo to this group too. He might be able to help, and we can ask Ezra if he knows any WooCommerce people, but I'm just not familiar with the platform, so sorry we can't be of much help there. Another question for the same client, I've been running their ads since January 28th. So far, have just set up cold and warm campaigns as I'm waiting for above issue to be solved before running DPA ads. I'm really happy with these results as it's a brand new account. The cold campaign has a traffic objective, but it has actually generated 5 sales. That's awesome. Way to go. I'm wondering if it could be worth running the cold campaign as a conversion objective or keep as is. So let me check it out, John. In a situation like this, I don't see much risk in duplicating this and trying a conversion objective optimizing for purchases. I don't think it will hurt this new campaign. And I do think that you could possibly get better results. You just want to keep in mind that depending on the spend and the audience size, it's going to depend on the length of time. But after a certain amount of time, it could be a week or a few weeks or even a few months, you might just start to see a bit of fatigue because you are targeting the same audience, just different objectives. And at that point, when you see both of them really start to rise at the same time, is when I would turn the other one off. But yeah, Anna, way to go on these results. And I would definitely try the purchase objective because that would be my first choice on an option like this. So it's fantastic, fantastic that you are getting results with the traffic objective. So way to go there. And just looking, your
Yeah,
cost
man,
per purchase
getting
is 11.59.
2.6 ROAS on
Yeah,
cold is pretty
holy
amazing.
crap. This is fantastic. Also, you're looking, okay, so yeah, a little bit less than a $12 CPA. That's amazing. Your cost per click is insanely low. I wonder like who you're targeting. Like your CPM is really low too. Like I wonder what market this is. You don't have to tell me, but it sounds like a super passion market or a market that's just really not competitive. But your click-through rate is really high. That's great to see. Something I would note is your add to cart to purchase ratio here is kind of low. It's not terrible, but we like to see that at 50% or above. So Anna, a great campaign you could set up would be something like Booms, where you optimize for the messages objective and give away like a 10% off coupon code if you're willing to through Messenger. So just anything you can do to encourage people who added to cart to purchase, because you do have a pretty high fall off rate there. So that could be another optimization point. But you go, girl. This is amazing. These are amazing results right out of the gate, and everything you're going to learn over the next few months will just help take this to the next level too.
Very cool. Awesome. So I know there have clearly been, I can see the notifications here, some new questions put in, but I think what we should do now is go through and answer questions that people have been submitting in the
Yeah,
chat.
let's
So
knock out
let
all
me
the
just go
chat
ahead and
questions,
start
John, and
those.
then anything that she said it's a next day cake delivery business. Wow, that's awesome. And I'm wondering, like, what's your avatar? Are you targeting this as like friends who have birthdays coming up? Is this like a business thing? I mean, this is a lot of what we're going to dive into over the next few weeks, but I'm very interested in this business and that's super cool. But John, let's make sure to knock the questions out in the chat because I can always, over the next few days, answer the questions in the group. You know, they're not going anywhere. So.
Totally. Okay, cool. So first question, Steve submitted it to us. It came from someone in email. They
Awesome.
said, what goal should I use when I'm sending cold traffic to a form where they're registering for a webinar?
So you want to use the conversion objective, and you probably want to set up a custom conversion. If you don't know how to do that, just Google Facebook custom conversion for that thank you page, or the just the immediate next URL that they're going to visit after they opt in for that webinar. And that's the objective that you want to use. And we'll talk more about why and how next Thursday, but that's just right to the cut into the chase there.
Yep, cut to the quick. Perfect. So Jason said, hey there, what happens when my 1% lookalike audiences stop converting?
Ooh, good question, Jason. You're going to hear me talk a lot about this in the targeting module. The question is, that's going to happen. I honestly don't do a ton of lookalike targeting because I find it to be very rarely scalable. I'm not knocking it if it works for you, and I do think there is a bit of quality traffic that can be there with lookalikes in the right ad accounts. But it's just not very scalable because yes, you can go up in terms of percentages, and some brands can do that and find a certain level of success creeping up into the 6, 7, 8%. Most don't, but some do. And that's just not a game that I love to play. So I'll talk about this more during the targeting. But of course, you can go up to 2%. But most of what you need to do is really learn the other types of targeting on Facebook that are way more endless, like interest targeting and everything that I'm going to get into during that module.
Awesome. Okay, so next
Trying to be a
question,
little more
Taylor
concise
is
so we can
wondering,
get to everybody.
yeah, that's
Because I could go down
probably a
a
good
rabbit
idea,
hole
just so
on
we can
all of
hit
these
everyone.
guys.
So,
But I love these are
and the
such
beauty
good
is you're going to get to
questions.
go deep on all of them.
All
So
of it,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
There's
and
nothing we've chatted
yeah,
about that we're not going to go so much deeper into. So
cool. Okay, so Taylor is selling a $3,000 to $5,000 product, and her question was, do you think it's better to use a funnel that has a salesperson at the end of it, so have like a one-on-one phone call as your sort of
I
conversion
need,
tool, or a group Q&A, kind of
I,
like we did with the Facebook Lives
sorry,
or
Drew.
webinar?
I just need to know what you're selling. Is it group coaching? Is it information? Like what? I just need Taylor to tell me exactly what she's selling and I can give better information. And also Thursday session is going to help you a lot. But if you can give me that context, Taylor, I'll get back to you on this call. But let's move to the next question until then.
Cool. All right. So Jason said, what is the best way to vertically scale a performing ad? Is it better to increase budget or just duplicate the campaign?
So it really depends. I hardly never recommend just duplicating the same campaign using the same objective. That's a super outdated um, thing that people teach that just forces you to compete against yourself and saturate the audience really quickly. And it's just not a good evergreen, like long lasting media strategy. So it really depends on if you're using ABO or CBO. I'll talk a lot about this in that bonus training that's going in the next few days on CBO that I chatted about. But the best way to scale, if you're using ABO, it's perfectly fine to add new ad sets into that campaign and just change the targeting. So, figuring out new interests and new audiences that you want to target, but using the same ads that you've used in previous campaigns, you're just horizontally scaling. And then, of course, you can up the budgets on ad sets to vertically scale. When you're using CBO, you want to vertically scale that campaign, of course, so you can bump that budget about 30 to 50%, depending on how aggressive you want to be, every 3 to 7 days, depending on how aggressive you want to be. I like to talk scenario with a lot of that, though, because it does change depending on the situation that you're in. But most of the time with CBO, when I'm talking any sort of scale, most of that's happening in a brand new CBO campaign because CBO very much struggles with any changes to the campaign other than adding new ads in that might help overcome fatigue. So we're going to go way deep into this, but that's your short and quick answer there.
Awesome. Very, very good. So per that webinar question I just asked, Brandon said the platform doesn't allow a pixel at all. So is there a way to still use conversions when you can't even create a custom conversion with URL since there's no
Honestly,
pixel?
honestly, it would be so worth you just quickly getting a page builder like ClickFunnels, or you might even be able to do this with your trial of Zipify and just build your own landing page where you have them opt in for the webinar, and then just include a link there on the thank you page where they can go register through whatever platform, or you can send an email for them to register. I don't know if you guys were on any of our sales webinars for TMTP, but we owned those landing pages. We generated your email address, your phone number, your contact information, and then on the, I don't even know if on the thank you page, we emailed out a link the day before or a few days before from the actual platform. So that's the route that I would go, so that you do have control over things like building retargeting audiences and installing those pixels.
Yep. And a lot of tools let you integrate with a third party. So if you captured email with Zipify, for example, you can almost always send it from Zipify to GoToWebinar or whatever. So you're not going to be that limited by platform because most of them integrate with something. So, okay, Christy said, I heard from someone who had some success with Facebook that we should be using different pixels for every avatar so as not to confuse Facebook. Is that really wise?
No, I definitely wouldn't do that. The only time I would use another pixel is if I'm creating a completely separate ad account for a completely new business. So even if you sell to multiple avatars, it's totally fine. And it's not like against Facebook terms of service, but it's definitely not best practice in their mind to have multiple pixels going. So try not to do that if you can.
Awesome. Yeah, totally agree. I gave her a big NO capital letters. So more information for Facebook always makes it smarter, even if there's multiple avatars. They understand
Totally.
that.
Yep.
Okay, so Nathan said, I'm brand new to the traffic world. Before this, I was
All
solely
right.
working with creative. Do you recommend any supplemental books, podcasts, or other materials that will help me come out of the gate strong? And I think Nathan is
Wow.
on Anthony Mink's team. So it's
Amazing.
his,
You're working
his
with
mentor
the
proclaimed.
beard guys. That's awesome. Welcome, buddy. Whoa, that's a whole rabbit hole, John. What if I've been meaning to do this. What if I make a list of books, podcasts, anything like that that I recommend and just post it in the group for you guys? If you can just send me a Slack message, John, and remind me to do that, because a few
Yep.
people have asked me for this actually the last week. So it means that I need to make it. So let me sit down and really
Also,
put some thought
good
into that.
YouTube content. Mhm.
Yeah, YouTube is
I know you will add the Wizard of Ads. So
yeah,
that's what I would say, just if you wanted to give one answer, but I will remind you of that, Molly.
cool. Yeah. Thank you.
Sweet. Okay, so this one's a little bit longer. So Bridget said, I've been looking at this first impression share percent. So that's a metric inside of Facebook to understand the relationship between reach and frequency. So
Mhm.
they have some clients with a low first time impression share that are spending $25,000 a month, and some that are higher that aren't working as well.
Mhm.
What do you think about this? And I'll give you, because I didn't actually know, I was thinking this was more like what AdWords has for impression share percentage. How much of the search traffic do you own where your ad shows up first? But this actually refers to the percentage of daily impressions that come from people seeing your ad set for the first time. So
Mhm.
what do you think in terms of how predictive is that metric? And she's saying, do you think 60% is a good number to shoot for?
Look, it's really hard for me to tell you because it depends on those businesses, the markets they're serving, how large those markets are, how advanced the business is. Like, for example, Ezra's is really, his is really low, right? Like, there aren't many people. I think I might be getting that backwards. Sorry, my brain does weird things when it comes to numbers sometimes. But Ezra's been running such a high volume of ads to this avatar of women over the age 50 for so many years now, especially on Facebook, that it's very hard for him to find people who haven't seen an ad for him or an ad from him or even that particular ad in general, right? Because we're using a lot of what works. So for him, that number is going to look very different, and that's something that we understand. For a brand new business who's selling in a large market, I mean, there's endless opportunity there. And I'm not saying one is good or bad, it's just apples and oranges. So if you just give me a little bit more context, or even if you were able to show me some screenshots, I don't know if screenshots would necessarily help, but maybe if you told me a little bit about the market, and um, I think that would, I would be able to give you more insight if I had more context, if that makes sense, Sean. But honestly, if you are generating the results that you're looking for overall, when it comes to your true success metrics, like return on ad spend, cost per acquisition, cost per lead, that's what truly matters. Because you would look at Boom and say, oh, this is a saturated market. He saturated this market. And it's like, yeah, but they just had the best month of the entire company's career in January, and spent, I told you guys, like a little bit over 500,000 on Facebook, and saw $1 million return just on Facebook with in air quotes, saturated market. So we also have to keep in mind, guys, that no matter what our market is, it is a revolving door. So even if we've had these businesses for a long time and we feel like we've been talking to the same avatar, the same group of people for years, that group of people is always changing, right? Like for me, there are always digital marketers and people like you guys getting into the game or getting into a point in their business where they're ready for my help. With Boom, humans are always getting older. There are always new people entering Ezra's markets. So just a thought process there. I'm happy to go deeper on this question, but I also would not worry about it at all. If you're getting the results that you want, I would look at this as kind of a secondary metric that might show fatigue in the market, specifically fatigue in the particular ads and offers that you might be using at this time. But if everything's working, I wouldn't worry too much about it.
Perfect. Totally agree. I think there are a lot of metrics that are interesting and fun to look at, but not helpful or predictive. And that is a huge trap of anything in marketing. And so honing in on what really matters, like CPA, and then, different metrics that reflect where it is in the funnel, right? So cold and hot have different things you want to look at, but really, really good answer, Molly. So moving right along, Caroline from Sydney, Australia. She said, you talk a lot about large audiences, 1 million plus, as we're a smaller country. What do you think people in Australia should do to ensure they have the right audience size?
Yeah, great question. We'll go deep into this during the targeting module because I understand that some of you are restricted by where you live. So the audience sizes that I blurt out don't necessarily matter to you. And you'll notice on the targeting worksheets and in my slides, it says, don't listen to this if you are a local business, not applicable. So we'll go deeper into that. If you are restricted to a certain geographical area, you kind of just got to work with what you got, honestly. And I don't recommend layering on a lot of targeting options because it makes the audience sizes really small. But I'll go deep into the specifics for you guys when it comes to the targeting module.
Cool. Okay.
And everybody down in Australia,
Marilee,
I'm going to be back down there at the end of July for Digital Marketers Down Under. So grab your ticket to that event and come say hi if you are near the Gold Coast.
Yeah, I think the tickets might still be half off. I know Sonia Keenan, who puts the event on, did a 50% discount for her birthday. So if you are thinking about going, definitely search around a little bit for that.
Cool.
Okay, so Marilee said, hey there, we are currently running a CBO campaign that's hitting the CPA target. Awesome. How often should we increase the budget? We are currently at a $500 a day budget.
Okay, great question. So if this is a campaign that's evergreen, right? How quickly I vertically scale, or also known as increasing budgets, really depends on whether this is a campaign that's timely. Is this a campaign that's like a flash sale, it's only lasting a few days, or this is a promo that you're only running for a few weeks? If that's the case, it changes my scaling strategy versus this is an evergreen cold traffic campaign that we're just running into perpetuity until it doesn't work anymore. If it's evergreen, I scale a lot slower. So I recommend more like, really honestly, especially for a CBO campaign, if it's evergreen, I might not bump the budget, but every 5 to 7 days sometimes. You can get away with doing it every 3 days, but if you can wait 5 to 7 days between every time you bump the budget, it's just going to allow Facebook to digest that increase in budget in such a better way. And you'll see way less of that huge spike in CPA that you usually see when you increase your budget. So every 3 days, if you're being super aggressive, 7 to even 10 days. Sometimes I just leave it running if you want it to be very evergreen. And I usually bump the budget by 30 to 50%. So, for example, the next time you bump this budget, it's at $500. You could bump it up to anywhere between like 650 and 750 to 800 would be more aggressive. And then, I would wait a week if you can, and then bump it again by 30 to 50% of whatever your daily budget is. So hopefully that's helpful. Great question.
Cool. Okay, so Chaser for a CBO question. We have two from a little bit more early on Facebook advertisers. So Lily asked, what is a customer avatar?
Okay, so a customer avatar is basically a profile of a consumer that might possibly be interested in purchasing your product or service. And that is really what week 4 is all about. And we're going to dive in hard into avatars, whether you're a seasoned avatar or a seasoned avatar, a seasoned marketer, and you might roll your eyes at the thought of avatars, or you don't know what they are, you'll get a ton of value out of this. And specifically, guys, when it comes to Facebook advertising and these social platforms, even if you think you know your avatars, you really have to show up for that week of training, because this is what most of you are missing when it comes to scale. I mean, I consult with a brand right now who's spending between 30 and 40K a day on Facebook, and the biggest aha moment they've had in the last few months of us working together is that they really needed to develop some more avatars in order to scale. So anyways, going down a rabbit hole again, but also Google it. Digital Marketer has some great information about customer avatars. So you could Google Digital Marketer customer avatar. I think they even have a little worksheet. So there's some great free resources online that would go into more depth too.
Yeah, and I'll say third-party opinion here. I think that is probably one of the most powerful things Molly teaches in the whole course is the avatar section. So definitely make sure you guys show up for that, and we're going to go really, really deep on it. So moving along, Eric asked, what is the difference between a cold audience and a warm audience?
Yeah, so a cold audience would be targeting someone who, in essence, has never heard of your brand before. So there are many different ways to do this inside of Facebook or any traffic platform. A warm audience would be retargeting someone who's engaged with you in some way. Maybe they're on your email list, they visited your website, something like that. Sometimes I'll say hot audience, and those are people who have purchased from you before. But if you don't understand this terminology, definitely Google traffic temperature digital marketer. There's a really in-depth blog post that I wrote about traffic temperature by Molly Pittman on the digitalmarketer.com blog. That would go into more detail there. Yeah, you can see even a chart that I've got there, and it's probably that one at the top.
Yep.
So
yeah, so I'll post this in the
cool.
article, and yeah, temperature. Cool. Well, yeah, I don't have to find that,
Next.
but I will share this link with you all just so you have it. Next question. So Teresa asks, how important are Facebook and Instagram likes and follows, and should we spend money on that?
I mean, look, it's hard to prove because I can't measure what it means in someone's brain when they Google or look up your brand and see 5 followers or 5 million. I try to not let it influence me because I know that a lot of followers online doesn't always mean authenticity, doesn't always mean successful business, doesn't always mean trustful situation, you know? So, but I can't say what that means for other humans out there. And that's not something really I can measure. So, I mean, I don't think that it hurts. You'll notice that, I mean, I just started building my personal brand about a year ago. So I think I've got 15,000 followers on Instagram and like 8 on Facebook. In relation to most marketing coaches and business people doing similar stuff to me, I don't have that big of a following. And people might make a judgment based off of that. But they don't realize that I've spent most of my career building other people's brands, which I love and find that super fulfilling. And I'm not really in the business of just like growing my personal brand. I'm here to help you guys. And if I get followers out of that, cool, whatever. So I think it depends. I definitely don't think it doesn't help with your ad performance in any way unless there's some psychological thing there with social proof. So great question.
Yeah, and that's a tricky one to answer. So I think it's a lot more about you than about the marketing side. But
And for
okay,
me,
so
that stuff,
Jason said,
anything like that is
oh,
always just a bystander or a benefit of buying all the media that we do. Like to me, that's just always a secondary
mhm.
cool. That's something that we built while
Yeah,
we were running these positive our return on ad spend campaigns. Sorry to
yep.
cut you off there, John. What was the next one?
So no, 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 you're good. Jump in with whatever you got. And yeah, so we've got probably like 6 to 8 more questions here, and then I
Awesome.
might cap it there so we can make sure we're wrapping up on time. But any questions that don't get answered
We'll
here,
get to them,
you can ask them in the Facebook group, and we'll definitely get to them.
of
And
course.
we're also going to be talking to you guys on Thursday and Friday, so we've got
Yeah.
lots of time together this week
And
and for
don't
the next
and
15
and
weeks. So
also don't worry, guys. You can tell I've been talking for a while now. Um, Question volume isn't always this high. It will fluctuate week to week. So there is a really good amount of students here. Like we've crafted this perfectly based off of what's worked in the past and what hasn't. So your questions will always get answered in some form or fashion, and every week is going to be different. So let's get through these next few
mm,
here, John.
cool. Okay, so Jason said Google Ads shut down our remarketing account because we sell health supplements. Is there a workaround? Maybe we should tag
Tag
that
Mike
one
Rhodes in the
to
group.
Mike Rhodes.
Yeah, he's in the
Okay,
group.
so
Just
Jason, will
post
you
that.
ask that question in Facebook and tag Mike Rhodes? That's Rhodes, and he will be your best resource for solving that problem.
Yep.
Cool. Ricardo said, Molly, Facebook is canceling many accounts for no reasons. Do you have any recommendations for people who are getting accounts canceled or scared that their accounts are going to be canceled?
Yeah, I mean, next week, guys, we'll talk a lot about terms of service. I definitely would not say that people are getting them shut down for no reason. Usually and this is something that's happened to me. I'm not shaming anyone for getting an account shut down, and I'll tell you guys what I try to do to get it back up. But usually what I find when people get their account shut down is that they are breaking the rules and they don't understand terms of service and they don't understand why Facebook has terms of service and then it's there to protect the consumer so that the consumer will still spend time on the platform so that the whole platform still works and that we have people to advertise to. So a lot of this is a misunderstanding of terms of service. A lot of it is black hat marketers or people that just don't care to follow the rules or have the consumer in mind. Now, I'm not saying that's always the case. There are definitely times that Facebook shuts down accounts that they shouldn't, and I'll talk to you guys about what to do in that case. But I just wanted to, I'm not picking on you, but I don't always love the attitude of like Facebook shutting down, they're against business owners, they're shutting down all these accounts. Like there are definitely moments in time where Facebook cracks down a little bit more, and that's usually in response to outbursts from advertisers or bad things that have happened from a PR standpoint that have affected Facebook. And so they need to build that trust back with the consumer. And therefore, they need to really tighten up on any gray area types of ads that consumers might be seeing that could make them feel very targeted or that Facebook is using sensitive information about them to sell to advertisers. So this is why you see certain markets, Facebook will tighten up. But a lot of that is knowing how to still run ads in that market, how to still serve and really help those end consumers, how to word things, how to craft your offers so that you are abiding by terms of service. So little Molly rant there. Let's move to the next question, but way more to come on that topic. And if you are in a market and you have trouble with policy, I've been there. I run a lot of ads in the keto and health space, and you guys are especially people that should, when you have time or when you feel the need, post your ad copy, post your landing pages. Let me look at it to make sure that just through my lens of expertise and experience that, anything I might feel that you should change to stay on Facebook's good grace side.
Cool. So I think this is Patricia. A bit of an interesting spelling, said, I'd like to promote our Facebook group. However,
Awesome.
I can't do this with the traffic objective because Facebook doesn't allow links that point to Facebook. What should I do?
Yeah, I've actually never done this before, but you definitely can't send traffic directly to a group. What I would do is send them to a simple little landing page, where maybe you ask them to do a few things, like number one, join the group. Number two, opt in for my emails. Like you could, whatever your promise is, like, hey, want to get healthier. I give lots of tips and recipes in my group. I don't know what your hook is or what you're selling at, but you could send to your own landing page so that you can build that retargeting audience. And you could ask them, they're showing interest not because they want to join another Facebook group, it's because they want whatever you're offering, this community, this thing that they're, whatever the after state they're going to achieve after being a part of this group. So there's no reason you couldn't ask them for other points of communication on that landing page too. So that's what I would do.
Cool. Brandon said, in the testing phase, do you suggest creating ads specifically for Instagram stories or just letting the standard 1-to-1 ratio run in the stories?
Good question. I let the standard 1-to-1 ratio run in the stories. The only time I wouldn't is if I see that after a week or so, I'm not getting a lot of reach to Insta Story, then sometimes I will build a completely separate campaign or ad set that's just targeting Insta Stories with a creative that's customized just for that. But I try to get away with automatic placements and not customizing creatives whenever I can because it works best with Facebook's algorithm. And I'll talk more about that next week too.
Cool.
You guys have
So
awesome
Cole
questions.
said, when we get a web,
This could turn into a
yeah,
guide.
it's cool. There's a very big
I
range.
know, I love it.
Um, Cole said, when we get a website purchase from Facebook, is it possible to find out who they are and retarget the people that made that for additional purchases in the future?
So definitely, if your pixel's installed, then that person will become a part of a custom audience in Facebook, and or you could upload your list of purchasers to Facebook directly via phone number, email, other pieces of information. You can also sync that up automatically with your CRM. So lots of ways that you can do that. I would just look in Facebook's help section under custom audiences, and they will explain the different ways to do that. Sorry, I'm losing
Cool.
my
And I
voice
know
a
we'll
little
talk way more in depth
bit.
about that
I'm
in the
not trying to be
retargeting module,
short,
I think. So
just keeping the audience or keeping my voice at bay. Okay.
yeah, no worries, no worries. So I've got 4 more people that ask questions. One, there's a few parts to it, so we may just get some of them, but then we will wrap it. So if you guys, send in more questions, just go ahead and stick them in the Facebook group so we can
Yeah,
make sure we end on time.
great.
But I didn't write the name down, but this person said, I'm a startup business looking to give away a free product to gain customers. What traffic objective should I use for that? So I will just go ahead and answer this one, Molly, if that's okay.
Please.
I think you may need to think more about how you want to structure this offer, right? So a lot of people do
Yeah,
something called like a free plus shipping offer where they give away a book and people just pay for shipping, right? So they, basically are buying a book for $8. The company selling it's not making much of a profit on it, but they're not losing money either. So you may need to think a bit more about what that product is. You may have it perfectly lined out and how you're going to sell it and promote it. But I think that's really, you want to think very carefully about how you structure
yeah,
this. And once you've got it figured out, a conversion-based campaign objective would work very well. You just say, okay, this person essentially bought the book, right, when they gave you the money for shipping. That would be considered a conversion, and you optimize for that. So
yeah,
it's still just going to be conversion objective, but you want to step back and think more about how you're framing this product as an offer, and that's where you're really going to kind of see this thing live or die.
yeah, and definitely show up for Friday's
Um,
training. But
Hmm.
right off the bat there, I would use the conversion objective, unless your budget's super, super small. So you would want your budget to be high enough to allow at least a few conversions a day of, people making that free purchase. But we'll talk more about that next week too. And definitely go to Friday's
Yep.
training to make sure that's the front end offer you want to run with.
All right. So does it disturb the Facebook algorithm if we turn off campaigns overnight?
If you turn off ooh, yes, definitely, guys.
Like pause them?
Yes, that hurts you so much. Please, please don't tinker in your campaigns. Like, I'll talk about what you can change sometimes and what you can't, because it depends on how the campaign is structured. But the worst thing you can do is turn off something, especially if it's working, because it's very rare that you're going to be able to duplicate that campaign and re-enter the auction ever to where you were before. Not to sound dramatic, but again, this is something we'll talk about next Thursday, but I definitely, definitely do not recommend turning your campaigns off, because as soon as you turn them back on, it's basically like restarting from fresh, and rarely can Facebook ever get back to where you were. So even though the logic might be like, oh, I'm saving money overnight because I turned the campaign off, I promise you it's hurting you more than it's helping.
Totally. So in the spirit of that, are there any times you can edit a campaign or certain parts you can edit without ruining the campaign, or do you always need to duplicate and tweak the campaign
No.
rather
No,
than
I mean, there are
changing ones
definitely
that are
things
working?
that you can do when you've got budgets at the ad set level. You can definitely add new ad sets to the campaign, especially if you're targeting, you're horizontally scaling and targeting new audiences. You can do that without any issue at all. You can also turn ad sets on and off without any issue at all. I rarely turn ads off ever. I'll talk more about that later. With CBO, I hardly change anything other than I will add new ads to each ad set if the campaign is working every week or so, just to give the campaign more ammunition to roll with. And this is something that doesn't really work with ABO because the optimization is a bit further down. So again, something we'll go a bit deeper, and I feel like I keep saying that, but those are some times where I will make changes. Obviously, I'll increase budgets, stuff like that's no problem, but I tried to not make any other big changes, but it does depend on how the campaign is set up.
Cool. And then this is a very big question that I don't think you'll be able to really answer on here, but maybe you can point to when we'll talk in depth about it. They were wondering how the Facebook algorithm works, right? They don't really
Yes.
understand that part.
Next week, we'll go deep into that. So definitely show up next Thursday.
Cool. All right, two more and then we will be done. So first one is well, no, so let's do this one. So when scaling CBOs, do you recommend duplicating the existing campaign or simply increasing the budget? Actually, I think you already answered that one, so we're
Both.
good there. So
Yeah,
last
both.
question then, um, how, how do we attribute credit if we have multiple channels?
And by the
Interesting
way,
question.
John,
I
I
have
just
lots of
said
opinions.
both. Sorry, John, I just said both. What I mean by that is I would increase the budget of the campaign that's working. I would duplicate that also, and then change the targeting in the new campaign. I wouldn't just duplicate the same thing like I talked about a few minutes ago. So I just wanted to clarify there. When I said both, that's what I meant. But sorry, John, go ahead into this question.
So Raymond was wondering, how do we attribute credit if there's multiple channels? So if you're running Facebook ads and email and Twitter ads and all that, how do people go about figuring out what's working and what's not?
Yeah, that's a you question.
Okay, cool. I'm happy to answer it. I didn't want to step on your toes. So this is my chance to get to say we'll talk more about this later. But the big idea is that when you are doing any kind of marketing, there are different ways you can assign credit. You can assign credit to maybe the first interaction, right? So the time someone is introduced to your business, and we would call that first touch attribution. So if somebody sees a Facebook ad and 6 months later buys through email, you might give the credit to Facebook. Or you can do something called last touch attribution. And that instead looks at the last interaction someone had before they purchased. So in the example I just gave, email rather than Facebook would get credit for the sale. So there's no one way to attribute credit. It's kind of the most important thing to understand. It really depends on how you want to measure. When you are a newer business, you're trying to get your feet under you, you don't have cash reserves, you're still trying to prove your offer, you really want to stick to last touch attribution. When you are a bigger business like Boom is, and you've got a little bit more money to play with, you've had proven success, you've got a really strong offer, you can think more about first touch attribution. So those are like, that's the big note. The one thing I'll say
Yeah.
about this before we get to go much deeper in it is just that I use the tool Google Analytics to really help me understand how people interact with my website and my traffic and how that drives them to buy. So when a client of mine does a big launch, which happens a lot, at the end of the launch when it's over, I go through and create a report and I say, okay, you spent $30,000 on Facebook ads. There were, out of that 1,500 sales that came from people who clicked on a Facebook ad and then bought from email. And there were, 10 or 100 sales that came from people actually clicking on a Facebook ad. So I think the impact of the money you spent on Facebook was X, right? So you made a return of this. So it's something that can be thought of in a bunch of different ways. The most important thing when you're thinking about credit is remembering that Facebook is a very, very powerful tool. It has a halo effect that helps it kind of ripple across the entire thing. And you want to make sure that you focus on attributing credit in the way that makes the most sense for how stable your business is. So we will
Yeah,
go
and I think
way, way deeper on that, but I think
and I think
that's a good answer.
realizing that there is a journey, so it's like this turns into a chicken and the egg scenario where it's like, yes, in the example, you could give email credit, but that person never would have heard of your business if it wasn't for the ad, you know? So that's why we always go for what a lot of people call like a blended return on ad spend. So looking at how much money did I spend on ads across the board, all my campaigns, all my traffic platforms, knowing that all these ads, all of this is working together, right, to facilitate this whole traffic system. How much did I spend and did I make my money back or did I hit, my return on ad spend goals? And some people might say that might not feel good to some people, but I see number one, you can always go in, dive deeper, and figure out ways to optimize and sort of cut the fat there and, what's working and what's not working. But I see so many marketers and business owners wasting a lot of time trying to get perfect attribution that sometimes just isn't even possible because of where we are in technology today. So I definitely think we should have a pulse on the numbers. I'm a huge fan. Obviously, I'm a nerdy marketer here teaching you guys this stuff, and you guys can already tell that I like to talk a lot about numbers. But I also like to look at it from a big picture because all of this is working together. And like John was talking about the halo effect, you guys will hear Ezra talk a lot about this. And it's just the understanding that what you are doing, especially on these paid traffic platforms, has a much larger and grander effect on your business than what you can actually see tracked inside of any ads manager. I can't track how many people saw Boom's ads, never clicked, but remember the brand and therefore were influenced to purchase again. That's just part of being an advertiser. And there will always be stuff that we can't track. And I think in this digital world, we have this really high expectation of being able to track because it does allow us to literally follow people around, track them. It is called tracking and use that to our benefit to see what's working. But we also have to keep that in perspective with the bigger picture, and that there's so much benefit that your business is getting from the ads that you're running that have nothing to do with the numbers that you actually see in the ad platform. And that's going to be different for all of us. I mean, so one that we've already chatted about are followers on Facebook and Instagram, email subscribers, even though you were running a conversion campaign. If you're a local business, you'll get phone calls. You'll definitely start to see, as you run more ads, more Google searches for your brand names and your product names. Most of you who are on Amazon that start to scale more direct to consumer e-commerce ads on Facebook will start to see a huge uptick in Amazon sales. All of this works together, guys, no matter how someone purchases from you. So I think that is a good note to end on there, John. This was a super fun first call. We got to answer a lot of questions. That's why we do this. So fun to get to know you guys a little bit more. And I'll be in the group over the next few days, wrapping up any questions that didn't get answered. And just a reminder for you guys, on Thursday, we have our training at 4 p.m. Eastern. That will be with me. No matter your business type, make sure you watch at least the first 30 minutes or so. And then I'm going to dive deep into front-end offers for info business, SaaS business, service-based businesses. I forget them. I name them off so much time. Local businesses and you guys know, agencies. And then on Friday at 4 p.m., not Wednesday, Friday at 4 p.m., same time, Ezra is going to go deep into e-commerce. So when do you need to go direct to product page? When should you have a pre-sale article? And you know, the different assets that he builds to facilitate, especially the cold acquisition of new customers and new leads for his business. So I hope this was helpful for you guys. Take a deep breath. We're just in the beginning. Any questions that you have, post them in the group. I almost said shoot, but that sounded a little weird. And if you feel overwhelmed, just take a deep breath and know that this will all make sense in time. And if all this is making sense to you, awesome. Dig a little bit deeper and see how you can get even more out of this and maybe push yourself a little bit to the next level. Post in the group some campaigns that you're currently running, and I could probably add in some commentary to help make it better. But I just appreciate getting to know you guys. This has been a really fun first 5 days. I appreciate your enthusiasm. I love that we're already starting to get testimonials and positive feedback, and we're less than a week in. So that makes us feel good, and we appreciate the back and forth. So thanks, you guys. I'm starting to get tongue-tied now. Thank you guys for showing up. John, is there any other parting words?
You hit the last thing I wanted to mention was Ezra's session moving. So we are good. Thank you so much, Molly. This was amazing. You brought the energy, even though I know it's late there. So we can wrap on that. Thanks so much, everyone, for being here, and we will see you guys on Thursday.
Bye, y'all.